Karma is a motherfucker. Karma never loses an address. Karma is a boomerang. It will catch up with you. And so with Cosby, and to some extent even Oprah as well, with Cosby, when I saw Eddie make that joke, I saw it as karma, man. Because Eddie, if you look at the quotes from Eddie, and Eddie gives a quote to the Hollywood Reporter, I think, he talks about how badly Cosby treated him back in the 1980s. He says it here. He says, he had a weird thing with me that he didn't have with other comics. It was mean. He wasn't nice. He wasn't doing that with everybody. He was doing that with me specifically. He was shitty with me. He says, I'm a big fan of Bill Cosby. This is what he said back in 1987 when he did Raw. He said, never met the man, but he called me up about a year ago and chastised me on the phone about being too dirty on the stage. It was real weird because I had never met him, and he just thought he could call me up because he was Bill and tell me that isn't what comedy is all about. I sat and I listened to this man chastise me, and when Bill chastises you, you forget you're grown and you feel like one of the Cosby kids. So, so I think that Cosby, his biggest mistake seems to have been a little bit of arrogance, and I think that sometimes for black men, especially people that go to Hollywood, they really think that you're not black anymore. You really get to that point where you're like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. And then they remind you, no, you're not OJ, you're actually black. And you're only OJ because we let you be OJ, because you're playing a character. You're a cartoon character that we have created for our own entertainment. And when we decide to kill the character in this fucking movie script, your character is going to die. So when we decide that OJ, the man everybody loves, is not going to be OJ, he's going to turn into a dirty, vicious, scary black man who deserves to be in prison, then we're going to do that transformation without your approval. We're not going to ask your permission. We're going to kill you off the same way we killed the daddy off in Good Times. So ultimately, a lot of the people that you see in Hollywood, black folks that go to Hollywood and think that they made it and think that they're powerful, think that they're safe, they only exist at the pleasure of those who are paying their bills. They only exist at the pleasure of those who really control the infrastructure of Hollywood. They exist at the pleasure of the Wizard of Oz. And the minute that the white man decides that you're going to not exist anymore, or that you're going to be transformed, or that your character is going to be killed off for the next season, they will kill you off because they control every single mechanism that gave you your artificial power in the first place. You run around here like Pinocchio, but you always thought you were a real boy. And then when they pull the plug on your ass, you don't know what happened. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, what happened here? I don't understand. This is an outrage. Well, that's a mess. Now, this gets me back to Eddie, Dave, Chris, Tracy, and Kenan. The 5 black men sitting on Saturday Night Live in solidarity, giving the appearance of solidarity in the midst of this very controversial joke about another black man who was in their ranks. I'd be curious to know what D.L. Hughley thinks about this and what D.L. Hughley has said about Cosby. I've not heard D.L. Hughley saying it. D.L.'s a friend of mine. I should probably reach out to him and ask him what he thinks. I've not heard D.L. say anything about Cosby, and I think that's the right move, and let me tell you why. Give me a yes or no. I'm going to do this with a yes or no question. Do you think, let's say that, there's some Becky out there. There's always a Becky out there ready to accuse a black man of terrible things. Do you think that if we went into the background of Tracy Morgan in extreme detail, like really dug into his personal life, talked to every single woman he's ever slept with, everybody who's ever attended any party he ever went to, anybody that ever knew him, anytime he might have done any dirt, do you think that we might be able to find some stuff that maybe Tracy doesn't want everybody to know about? Do you think that there would be a way? Do you think that I could find something if I really, really did that? If I really was determined and I had the power of the white man, and I really was determined to ruin Tracy Morgan, and I had the power to do this, do you think that I could find something that could ruin Tracy Morgan's career and his whole reputation, destroy his brand in a few weeks? Do you think I could find something? Do you think I could find maybe one woman that would accuse him of something? Because with a black man, you don't need no proof. That's been proven. That's been shown. Albert Wilson, there was no proof. Tess Cephas at the University of Wisconsin, there was no proof. Bill Cosby, there's no proof. Show me. If you don't believe me, if you think I'm lying, motherfucker, then show me some goddamn proof. Bring me some proof. If I'm lying, if I'm an asshole, then bring me proof. Prove it to me. You can't do it because there's no proof that Cosby did any of that stuff that this lady said that he did, right? So you could take a black man down with no proof. So do you think that if somebody got mad at Tracy and said that they wanted to take him down and make him look bad to the public, do you think that they could do that? Give me a yes or no. Yes or no. Do you think they could do it, or you think he's just impermeable for criticism? That there's no way that his reputation, his past is so stellar and squeaky clean that there's absolutely nothing that we can ever find that would make him look bad in the eyes of the public? The answer is yes. Do you think we could do that if we wanted to do it, if we were determined to take down Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock? I mean, Chris Rock came out and did that whole like skit where he was admitting he implanted it into a series of very bad jokes. Chris is my guy. He's incredibly funny, but this joke wasn't funny, but he did these string of jokes about being addicted to porn that he thought that he was doing. That was his way of confessing. See, comedians are some of the most brilliant people out here. So what they'll do sometimes is they'll incorporate stuff in the comedy so that they'll let it out, so that when you find out about their dirt, it's not so bad. So Chris basically confessed that he had a porn addiction in the midst of his routine. Anybody remember that? Anybody remember Chris's little confession that he threw out there so they wouldn't be such a big deal when it got into, People magazine or whatever? Well, Chris probably has some stuff that if you shaped it in the right way. Chris made jokes about how many college girls whose tuition he's paid to get through college and all that. You don't think that they can't find one single story if they were looking for it to make him look kind of like a predator? I mean, right now, seriously, it's not hard to make a black man look like a predator. All you got to do is prove that he fucked somebody. All you got to do is prove that he had sex with somebody, and he's pretty much a predator. Like that's the country you live in. Seriously, I'm not joking. It can happen to your son anytime. He just got to get the right enemies. He got to be powerful enough to have the right enemies. And believe me, they can make him look like anything they want him to look like. And why do I bring this up? Am I bringing it up because I want to pick on Tracy? No. Am I bringing it up because I want to pick on Eddie? Eddie Murphy been around 40 years. Y'all know some of Eddie's dirt. Y'all know the stories about it. I mean, seriously, I don't care. I'm not judging. Come on now, right? So the reason I think that these guys should be very careful is because, when you start letting go of any sort of compassion or solidarity for a fellow black male comedian who was done wrong by the system, whether you like him or not, just know that when you're working on behalf of Master to tear him down, you might be next. Anybody remember that poem? You remember that poem that said, "First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. But then they came for the trade unionists. I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." That's a poem by Martin Niemöller. I hope I pronounced it right. And there's other versions out there. I just pulled up the version that I found first. But the point of the matter is to say that you got to be real careful about jumping into what you see as a white supremacist battle to attack another person that looks like you. See, when I was in Ghana this past week, y'all know I was in Africa this weekend, and I wasn't pretending. I was feeling really African, and I am. That don't go away. When you're around other black people like that, and you see what real black power looks like, it doesn't leave you. So I'm still feeling very African, and I will always feel African. But when I was there, I started researching a little more about how how black people ended up in the slave dungeons and being hauled away to the United States and to Brazil during the slave trade. And basically what it was that you had tribes that were this is a nutshell. This is history in a nutshell. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm gonna break some of this down for you. My interpretation of what I was reading. There were tribes, from my understanding, that were already fighting each other. There were tribes already going to war, taking each other as slaves. So then the white man comes up on the shores, and he's got guns and gunpowder and cannons and all these weapons that were pretty advanced. I mean, Europeans have been pretty much practicing killing each other. They were into some gangster shit over in Europe, so all they did was sit around and come up with weapon systems. And so they're bringing over, we're giving them culture and things like literature and mathematics and science, and they're giving us weapons, right? So they go to one of the tribes and they say, look, hey, we need some slaves. So can you go and when you go fight this other tribe, we'll give you weapons that will help you defeat your enemy. We will help you take down that other tribe. All you got to do is split the profits with us 50-50. Just when you collect 100 slaves, give us half, you keep half. Right now, remember, African slavery was very different from American slavery. African slavery, it was still slavery, but it wasn't like American slavery. American slavery was very brutal, right? So ultimately, a lot of the reason that millions of Black people ended up being shipped off to other continents is because there were people in the middle of a situation that were being used as pawns to take down other Black people. So my point is to say that when I look at Chappelle and Tracy Morgan and Eddie Murphy and Keenan and Chris Rock standing there in what appears to be solidarity, basically validating NBC's long-held beef against Bill Cosby, because there's got to be a beef when your old boss is that ain't shit compared to what he's really dealing with. He is an 80-something-year-old man. Think about your 80-something-year-old grandma who might have trouble getting up and walking to the refrigerator every day, who can't see no more, who's got all kinds of medications, who can barely live by herself, and then taking her and dumping her in the middle of a penitentiary with a bunch of young, crazy, hardened criminals, and where she's going to die there. Like this is not just, Bill Cosby, that people just think bad of him, or he lost a movie deal. No, this is a man that is dying in prison. So as much as I can empathize with what Eddie Murphy might feel about the shit that Cosby said in the 1980s, which I don't agree with. I thought that was wrong. Okay, I understand how you feel, but that ain't the same as dying in prison. Bill Cosby did not. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would imagine that if Eddie Murphy were falsely accused and dying in prison, I don't really know if Cosby would be making jokes about Eddie Murphy being sent to the gulags to die, right? I don't know if Eddie Murphy would I don't know if Cosby would make jokes about a fellow Black comedian being sent away to prison to die. That's what I'm saying, especially when he was going to a lot of the same parties you were going to. Y'all all Hollywood motherfuckers. Y'all know how y'all live. Hollywood people are crazy. They go to all these parties. There's liquor, there's drugs, there's women, there's some of these parties got children. It's Hollywood is a really debaucherous place. And I'm utterly fascinated that they've somehow done a rope-a-dope on America to convince you that Bill Cosby was the only one who got into some stuff that might be a little bit embarrassing, because there are entire organized rings of all kinds of horrible things going on in Hollywood that I won't even speak about, because it'll probably make you throw up. So this idea that we're going to isolate this one guy and pretend like the rest of us are good, sweet, and innocent, when the reality is that many of these same people were partying with him for many, many decades and bragged about it, that's just a joke to me. That's a damn joke. And if you're stupid enough to fall for that, I can't help you. I don't know what to do with you. I got to send you back to third grade, man, because you got to learn how to play chess up in this bitch, not checkers. And with Black people, they're always playing chess on you. And if you're playing checkers and you're only seeing 1 + 1 is 2, and you're not seeing that 2 × 12 is 24 raised to the third power, right? You're not seeing what they're really doing with you. Then